name is Sam, and thanks for checking out this video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification, and give the video a thumbs up. I want to talk about the books that I read this week, and I actually had a pretty good reading week. It was a very nice refresher after having like several weeks where I only managed to read like 2 books, which is like really slow for me. So, or a very little amount for me. So this week I managed to complete 4 books and start a 5th book, which I'm probably going to finish on Tuesday night or Saturday night. So I'm kind of counting that as almost 5. But I want to tell you my thoughts about them. So the first book that I read this week was For a Muse of Fire by Heidi Healing. This is the first book in what I believe is supposed to be a trilogy, and she is the author who wrote the Girl from Everywhere duology, which I absolutely love. It was one of my favorite books, well, duologies that I read last year, and I kind of want to somehow manage to squeeze it into a December to do a reread. I don't know if it'll happen. If not, reread in early 2019. But this is a new series, and it follows our main character in this world that is heavily influenced by colonialism, French colonialism in Asia, and I was really excited about that, especially because like it's kind of history stuff. I'm all for that stuff. I love that. I'm really loving all of this influx of like Asian mythology, Asian like perspective, context, voices, all that stuff that's coming in YA, and this was kind of like, I think the start of the flood that is going to be, like, there are so many books in 2019 by, like, Asian American authors and with Asian mythology and all that stuff. So I was really, really excited. So the story follows our main character, who is the daughter of, you know, this kind of, they seem like kind of just like kind of poor circusy folk, and she has the ability to control, she's kind of like a puppet master but with shadows, and they use that as her kind of thing in the circus to like entertain, but that skill is not a good thing in this world. It's very frowned upon, and she's potentially a target from the royal community, I guess, if they find out about it. So they have to, which is kind of the benefit of it being like a roaming situation. But very quickly we find out that like her parents aren't who we think they are, and her background isn't from what she thinks it is. She's kind of suffering the loss of her brother because he's just went away to war and then stopped responding all of a sudden, and they're just kind of really struggling with that. And chaos ensues, I guess, is the easiest non-spoilery way of explaining it. I will say it didn't live up to the hype that I was hoping it would. I ended up giving it like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really disliked the main character. I found her very, like she grew a little bit on me through the rest of the book, but I think it was more like the other characters made me hate her less as more and more people got added to the cast. I also thought there was going to be more dragons than there were, but like it's almost like a Patronus basically. It's like a dragon, and she can kind of control it and can like hurt people, and she uses it to protect herself. I did like that she, when things are discovered, I guess, in the second half-ish of the book, that she gets ready to take things on. But she just, like, has this personality of, like, as soon as she finds things out, she kind of just, like, withdraws and, super introverty and, like, blames herself for a lot of that kind of female personality, which I really hate when it's used in YA. That's just a personal thing for me. So that part kind of annoyed me, but I really liked all of the other characters and cast around it. I really liked the setting. I'm curious about the magic. It was kind of just like slap introduced in a lot of places. I don't think it was developed as much as I wanted it or introduced the way that I think it should have been. But that being said, I'm gonna keep reading this series. I'm hoping she'll grow on me more. I'm very curious about how this ended, and there's like potential for rebellion and the whole colonialism aspect, because throughout the story you're getting kind of like transcripts of the colonial soldiers that are basically like invading and massacring, creating a whole genocide in this world, and they're basically the French colonial soldiers in Asia. And I'm really, really curious to see where that goes, because like it's already like very, very clear of like there's almost like a coup in there happening, and there's just bad people. So I'm really curious to see where it's going to go. I really hope she does become more of a strong character in the rest of the series, and I'm really hoping we get to see more of the rebellion and where that goes, because I have a feeling it's another situation of like they can be good and bad in different situations, and you're not always going to agree with the people rebelling, because sometimes they go to extremes, and they may do the same things that the French colonialistic characters are going to do. So that being said, 3.5 out of 5 stars. It could have also been a very moody thing as to why I didn't like love it the same way I was hoping I would, So I'm very happy I own this though. The cover is so freaking pretty, and hopefully there will be more dragons in the rest of the series. Then I whipped through The Light Between Worlds by Laura Weymouth. This was easily... Actually, I shouldn't say that because I really loved some of the books this week. This was like one of my favorite reads of 2018 though. Like this was so, like I was so blindsided by how good this was that like the writing was like, oh, this was Sam writing. Like, and I did not realize how much of a historical fiction this was. I honest to God didn't remember the summary. I'm not even 100% sure I've actually fully read the summary before I bought it. But which is a good thing that I enjoyed it because I bought it, but it's a fantasy standalone, which is also pretty rare, and the cover, oh, and then after you read it, you're like, the cover makes sense, oh my god, and I've seen the UK cover, I've read the book now, and I don't understand the UK cover, so I'm happy that I have the North American cover, and oh, this is almost like a Narnia-y retelling, but from a different perspective with a different ending. And I guess some people liked or didn't, or sorry, I guess some people didn't like that aspect, but I like literally got like 50 pages in and I was messaging someone, I was like, it's like Narnia, I'm loving it. And I was about halfway through the book when I was like, I wish we got more of the magical world. And then I got to the end, I was like, no, I actually don't. I think this is actually, like, it was good that it didn't have it. It follows two main characters. They're sisters. Evelyn is the youngest. She's kind of like the Lucy character, I think, from Narnia. And then there's her older sister, Philippa, who's kind of like the Susan character. I'm hoping I'm remembering the kids' names from Narnia properly. And they also have one brother who's a little bit older. He doesn't really play much of a role, but it's basically of after they've gone to this Narnia land and they were there for years and dealt with, like, the whole, like, almost like Ice Queen situation where there was like evil people invading. For some reason, parts of this also reminded me of The Cruel Prince. That wasn't like, I don't honest to God even know why that book came to my mind because I don't remember most of the book, but I don't know if you liked The Cruel Prince. No, that's not true. I kind of disliked The Cruel Prince, but it wasn't a good or a bad thing of it. It just reminded me in parts of The Cruel Prince for some world. Maybe it was because like going from human to fairy-ish kind of world. They're like there and fighting alongside kind of like the Aslan sort of team. I don't think there is like no, there's no lion. No. But there's this whole world of like this massive political conflict that they're thrown into the middle of, whilst having literally just left our world, which is in like just kind of the dwindling down. World War II is officially ended, but it's everything after that. And they live in Scotland and England area. And I absolutely loved getting this perspective. We weren't in the Narnia land. For a few short scenes, we were like, oh, so this is what they did in the Narnia land. But literally all of it is after they're thrown back to this world, after having experienced years in this Narnia land, what happens after you're forced to go back? And Evelyn didn't want to come back. She's having hardcore withdrawal, almost like PTSD almost. She's definitely got mental health problems. She doesn't want to be here. She does have some good parts in her life, but she wasn't wanting to come back. She's not ready to come back, and she's not ready to adapt to having come back. And then her sister Philippa has like kind of just gone on. She moved to America to go to school. She's kind of distanced herself from her sister, and it's just so interesting. We get Evelyn at the beginning, and she's kind of going to school and trying to just kind of function at a level, not for herself, but so people will just kind of leave her be for the most part, but she doesn't want to be here. And her whole kind of premise in the book, and she's in it for about the first half, is how do I get back? I don't want to be here. I want to go back. This isn't my home. I had a home and I was forced away from it. And she just disappears. And then her sister comes back from America because her sister's disappeared, and she tries to find her, but she also stumbles into this job at the museum and meets someone who was a World War II veteran, and she starts working at the art museum with him, and there is a bit of a romance there, but it's not really, and the romance is awesome. I absolutely love it. It's not super romancy heavy, it's not cheesy, it's realistic. I also love that she's into this whole art world and she sees all this stuff, and he's crippled. Like I think it says severe, like half of his body's been burned, and he's got a limp and like all of these problems because of the war, and she doesn't care. It's this whole passion that they have for art, and they just like really care about each other and want to do things properly. They're so freaking adorable. And but they have like a legitimate friendship and like a lot of common interests. But it's interesting as like seeing Philippa try to deal with the loss of her sister. They don't know for sure if she's gone back to this world. They don't know how she got back. They don't know if she was kidnapped or murdered or committed suicide because she had all these mental health problems. And it was just so interesting seeing these two sisters who were there in the same place at the same time on the same side and left at the same time and come back to this world in totally different perspectives and had totally different experiences later on and took totally different steps. It was just really, really cool. I absolutely loved it. And I feel like having jumped more into the fantasy world would have taken away from a lot of the story in the World War II post-ish era. So that's why I loved it. I freaking adored this story and I think you should read it. I also did a reread of An Alchemy of Masks and Mirrors by Curtis Craddock. This is the first book in the Risen Kingdom series. I don't know how many books it's supposed to be, but book 2 is coming out in January or February. A Labyrinth of Scions and Sorcery. I'm hella excited for that one. That's one of my most anticipated books. But it's this like steampunk fantasy world where people can travel through mirrors and there's an assassination plot and our main character is basically like the almost adopted daughter of like a Three Musketeers character, and they're trying to get her safely to a different kingdom where she's she's betrothed to the king prince guy, but there's been like his former fiance was murdered and there's several assassinations attempts, and like, oh, it's just so freaking good. It's so good. Like if you like any sort of like familiar family relationships, but like not blood family, this is a good one. There's very, 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 very little, almost non-existent romance, which I freaking love. That's so rare in YA. And the magic system is so cool. I wish we could jump around through mirrors. Oh, it'd be so freaking cool. But yeah, so 5 out of 5 stars. Highly, highly, highly recommend the series. It is so underhyped and oh, I'm so excited for the next. Alright, and last but definitely least, I was forced this week to read the book Say You'll Remember Me by Katie McGarry. Now, I want to preface this review. I don't like contemporaries, okay? I was forced to read this by a friend. We made a deal that if she watched BTS music videos, then I would read a book. And she binged the hell out of BTS music videos, which, high five me, love yourself. But I was required to fulfill my end of the deal. There are a few contemporaries that are like my exception, like Crazy Rich Asians, because it is the luxury and the ridiculousness of it is what makes it amazing, and the setting and like all these ridiculous places is also awesome, and the trolley characters, oh, it's so freaking good. And then there's like Heretics Anonymous, where there's an atheist character and there's lots of humor and like it's a troll on itself. This book was literally everything I hate about contemporary genres wrapped up into a single book, okay? So going in, don't take my word as an unbiased review, okay? I'm hella biased against contemporaries, alright? Just keep that in mind. But this is literally like the most white people problems contemporary romance I've ever read. I didn't even know that this was possible to compile into a single book. Also, totally unnecessary for this book to be 450 pages. I literally got to page 230, which I think was the halfway mark. I was forced to get that way through. I was going to stop at page 150 and then just be like, I tried. And then I skipped about 150 pages and got to the end. Also, my friend gave this to me and didn't warn me that there's a dead dog in it by the end of it. It's basically what I imagine Mitt Romney's daughter as the main character. One of his, like, daughters. He has, like, 50 kids, right? And she gets into a romance with a guy who was wrongly convicted of a crime that he kind of confessed to and like was sort of set up for, and then he came from the wrong tracks and gets into this second chance program, and like automatically, like there's these guys harassing her in the middle of like a carnival or something like that, and apparently no one bats a damn eye other than this guy who just like steps in conveniently, and literally she says something like, I can't remember verbatim, but she's literally never seen him, never interacted with him, and says, I've been attracted to his voice. No! Oh my god. And I mean, I several times sent lines to my friend. I was like, why would you make me read a book that has this cheesy of a line in it? It's just so dumb. Like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm super biased. I hate these sorts of books. I wasn't gonna like this book no matter what. And I feel like, despite the fact that I jumped 150 pages, I still got the whole premise of the book. It was just like, her parents are super controlling and judgy, and like, her dad has his political agenda, and that prioritizes, and I don't know, maybe it was also bad to read right, like, during the midterm elections, and, like, I don't even know what to do with the United States right now, but, like, I also don't think that helped an awful lot. Please, for the love of God, no one ever recommend a book like this to me again. Between that and Paper Princess, like, I'm done with contemporaries after this year. Like, I just can't. Heretics Anonymous and Crazy Rich Asians can't even save you, okay? I'm just done. If you like cheesy contemporaries, like, probably like Casey West or something like that, I don't think I've ever, no, that's not true. I read one Casey West book, but I read it because it says that they were locked in a library, and then I read it, and it was literally like 3 pages, and I was angry. Wouldn't recommend if you don't like contemporaries. It's not one that's going to pull you into the contemporary genre, I can promise you that. Also, always warn people if animals are going to be killed in the book that you're recommending to them, because was super not cool with that. I also don't understand the name of the title, really. Because, like, it's a happily ever after situation. Why would he forget you? Maybe, if you've read it, maybe it was in, can you explain it to me in the comment section? Maybe it was in the 150 pages I skipped. Also, Hendrix is the stupidest name I've ever, you get to create names for this, and you gave the guy the name Hendrix, so people call him Drix. That is the stupidest name and nickname. I'm sorry, if my parents gave me the name Hendrix, I would not choose the nickname Drix. I would choose something like Bob, okay? Don't ever call someone Drix. That is the stupidest. And she also, her name is Allison, but she spells it stupidly. Like, her hippie white parents were like, we're gonna give you a super generic name like Jane, but spell it in a way that no logical human would spell it, okay? It doesn't make sense. Here, I gotta find it, because it actually angers me. E-L-L-I-S-O-N. No, you use A-L-L or A-L. That's it. None of this, oh, if we call her Ellie, then just write Ellie. Don't write Ellison, okay? Sorry, I'm ranting. This book, like, oh my god. Oh. So on that super calm note, those are the books that I read this week. Make sure to check the description box down below. I will link all of these books to their Goodreads pages, and I will also link all of my social media. If you follow me, I will follow you back.